The kids I babysit have a code word for danger, and they used it when their grandfather showed up. I'd been babysitting the Whitmore kids for about 4 months when I first heard about the code word. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and I was helping 6-year-old Lily with her homework while her older brother Owen played video games in the living room. Their mom Natalie had just started a new job at the hospital and needed someone reliable 3 days a week after school until she got home around 7. The pay was good, and the kids were sweet, so it seemed like an easy gig. That day, Lily looked up from her math worksheet and asked me if I knew their special word. I said I didn't know what she meant, and she glanced at Owen, who paused his game and walked over. He was 9 and took his role as big brother seriously, always making sure Lily stayed safe. Owen explained that their mom taught them a code word to use if they ever felt unsafe or needed help but couldn't say it directly. The word was lighthouse. If either of them said lighthouse in a sentence, it meant something was wrong and I needed to pay attention. I asked why they needed a code word, and Owen's face got serious in a way that seemed too old for a 9-year-old. He said their grandfather wasn't allowed to see them anymore, and if he ever showed up, they were supposed to use the word. Lily added that Grandpa used to be nice, but then he got mean and scared Mommy. She said sometimes people's brains get sick and they don't act like themselves anymore. I could tell Natalie had worked hard to explain it in a way that made sense to them without being too scary. I told them I understood and would remember the code word, then asked if they wanted to tell me what their grandfather looked like so I'd know if I saw him. Owen pulled out his mom's phone, which she'd left for emergencies, and showed me a photo from 2 years ago. A tall man with gray hair and a thick beard, smiling at the camera with his arms around both kids. He looked like a normal grandfather, and that somehow made it worse. That conversation stuck with me, but I didn't think too much about it at the time. Natalie had seemed stressed when she hired me, but I figured it was just the normal chaos of being a single parent with a demanding job. She told me during the interview that the kid's father wasn't in the picture and her own parents weren't available to help, which I now understood meant something more complicated than just being busy. Over the next few weeks, I noticed small things that seemed unusual. Natalie always texted me when she was exactly 5 minutes away from home. She'd installed cameras at every door and checked them obsessively on her phone. The kids knew not to answer the door for anyone, even people they recognized, unless their mom had specifically told them someone was coming. One evening when I mentioned that an older man had waved at us from across the street while we were getting the mail, Natalie's face went pale, and she made me describe him in detail before relaxing and saying it was just their neighbor. The afternoon everything changed started normally enough. I arrived at 3:30 like always and let myself in with the key Natalie had given me. Owen and Lily got home from school about 15 minutes later, dropped their backpacks in the hallway, and immediately started arguing about whose turn it was to pick the snack. I was mediating their debate between apple slices and crackers when someone knocked on the front door. The kids both froze instantly and looked at each other with wide eyes. I checked the camera feed on the tablet Natalie kept by the door and saw an older man standing on the porch holding a grocery bag. He had gray hair and a beard, thinner than in the photo, but definitely the same person. My stomach dropped as I realized this was their grandfather. Owen grabbed Lily's hand and pulled her toward the kitchen while I stood there trying to figure out what to do. The man knocked again, harder this time, and called out that he knew the kids were home because he'd seen them walk up the driveway. I told the kids to go upstairs to Owen's room and close the door while I handled this. Lily started to cry, and Owen put his arm around her shoulders, guiding her toward the stairs. As they reached the top, Owen turned back and said clearly, "I hope the lighthouse is still standing after that storm last week." My heart started pounding because I knew exactly what he meant. I pulled out my phone and texted Natalie that her father was at the door, then dialed 911 and kept my finger hovering over the call button. The man knocked again and said he just wanted to see his grandchildren for a